What's up, everybody? It's your boy KidSmoove from the official WeGameHere.com, and today I got
David Reid
from
Motiga,
and we're talking about
Gigantic,
which is the pretty game I just played. I got destroyed, but I enjoyed it. Now, can you tell us a little bit about Gigantic?
Absolutely. So Gigantic is a team-based action play, a very competitive multiplayer game. 5 players on a team, and it's very similar to a lot of what you see now in competitive multiplayer, with a couple of interesting twists. One of them is that instead of characters kind of like, if you go into a match on Halo or Call of Duty or whatever, everybody's pretty darn similar, right?
Yeah.
Our heroes are aimed with the idea that every one of them is aimed at a specific kind of gamer, right? So if you're a shooter player, you're going to find characters in Gigantic that work for you. If you're a fighter gamer, right? We just came out with Wu, the toad that knows judo, and that's what his area of expertise is. If you're a player of RPGs and you like the complex skill interactions that these things have, we've got characters that do that. So we've worked really hard to come up with a character, so that anybody who sits down in front of this game and plays it, we can help you find out who's the right hero for you to play. And that's one of the big things that makes Gigantic different. The second big thing that we like to talk a lot about are the Guardians themselves. So it is a 5-on-5 game, but in some ways it's really a 6-on-6 game, because each team has a 5-story tall monster, a Guardian, that they both protect, and then they also try to kill the enemy's Guardian. And so the whole point of the game as you go through, you're doing combat on a moment-to-moment basis with the heroes on the enemy team, and you're trying to kill them. You're also taking over certain control points on the map by summoning creatures to hold those. And by doing those two things, killing enemy heroes and summoning creatures and holding those control points, you power up your Guardian. And once you get your Guardian powerful enough, you get what's called push. The enemy Guardian goes over to the other side, punches the other Guardian out, and then that Guardian is now vulnerable. Guardians exhibit real sort of console boss mechanics, periods of vulnerability and invulnerability. And as soon as your Guardian is powered up enough to go take on the other Guardian, you and your teammates are going to want to run up there and get a wound on the enemy Guardian. And that's how you win the match. The other stuff, of course, some of the stuff that we announced at GDC, is that we are coming to Windows 10 and Xbox One. Got a big Xbox push coming this fall, and we're shipping in fall 2015.
So you guys kind of go side to side with like the release of Windows 10.
Exactly, that's the plan right now.
Okay, all right. So, and how has it been working? Now, you're currently working with the software?
Absolutely.
And how is that compared to the stuff you worked on in the past?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, right? I think a lot of gamers have, over the years, had some concerns about Windows and its commitment to gaming. But in sitting there with the guys there, with Phil Spencer, who's now the head of Xbox, you got a group of people there who have gone through the ranks in games there at Microsoft. And Windows 10 is certainly taking a far more deliberate approach to making gaming better on the PC. You got a lot of features in there like streaming from the Windows PC to any other device, or from your Xbox One to your Windows device. You got a lot of social sharing happening in there. You got cross-play now between PC and console.
Yes.
And this is all really exciting stuff for us as gamers and as a game developer, to look at how well Windows 10 is working and how good that build is and how seriously they've taken some of these gaming features. And, I certainly wouldn't blame a gamer, and I certainly don't think Xbox would say anything differently, the guys at Microsoft, about some of the things that have happened on Windows in the past, but it feels like a much different and a much better solution now for gaming on the PC than you've ever had in the past.
That's great. That's great. Now, after I played the replay for about 30 minutes, maybe?
Yeah, it felt like it.
My favorite, and this probably, I'm like one of those people that I pick one character and I stick with it.
Sure.
I don't like the experiment, but the thing is, from what I've seen what other players pick, I pick Roland because he's a gunner.
Yeah.
I love it.
Got that clever grappling hook too, so that's a lot of fun.
That saved my life a couple of times. Now, everything feels balanced, and that was the thing I was like. Josh was telling me about all the different types of characters, their different abilities, and how to use them. I'm like, so yeah, like stealthy and an RPG element. I was like, how is this going to balance out? But when I'm playing it, I'm like, wow, this works.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, and that of course is the difficulty in this. Is like you got this fantasy palette, you got the ability for at some level to have any kind of character in the game, but you also don't want to unbalance stuff. And so every time you add a new hero in the game, you go through a lot of testing. So we've actually got 2 groups of testers right now. We've got sort of what we call our alpha testers, which are pretty representative of the broader gaming audience. But we've also got a group called Core, which are kind of all like cyber athletes, semi-pros who just beat the hell out of the game and help make sure we really got got that balance right. And then usually when you bring a new hero out in the match, they're a little overpowered in the beginning, and you gotta tune those things as you go. But that's the process of going through the testing before we bring it out to the full alpha audience, and then we get a better sense of, all right, now that we've got heroes that are all pretty well balanced against each other, how that all works out in the match. So it is fundamentally one of the things that we have to continue to do as we bring out more and more heroes. And of course, every time you add a hero, you got to balance it across all the other ones. So it just gets harder and harder as you go. But that's what we're doing. That's how we're going to make this work.
Man, this game, pardon my language, badass, like, in a great way. So now I'm just going to ask you a couple questions, just for my confirmation.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you said we're aiming for fall, this fall.
That's right, fall 2015.
Windows 10, Xbox One.
You got it.
Crossplay.
Crossplay. And to be clear, it's opt-in crossplay, right? Because a lot of people get religious about, well, if I'm playing on an Xbox with a controller, isn't a guy with a mouse and keyboard going to have an advantage? Well, maybe, but you don't have to go and play against that if you don't want to, right? I mean, there's certainly something to be said about making sure the upper tier competitive gameplay is insulated and that those matches are pure and they're fair. On the other hand, if your brother's got a Windows 10 PC, you got an Xbox One, you guys just want to play together, you're going to have that option too, right? So, we're going to keep a close eye on how to think about that as we bring a more competitive bent to these things. But yes, you're going to have opt-in cross-play. I don't know that it'll be there on launch day, but that is something that we are very serious about doing. We're really excited about how that comes together.
And Gigantic is going to be like just online only, or does it have the single player?
It's certainly more an online PvP kind of competitive action game. We are looking at some potential for single-player options, ways to train yourself up and experiment with a hero before you go into a match. I think it's safe to say at launch it'll be probably a multiplayer-only game, but we're looking to add a lot to that as we go.
It's okay if it's no single player, because it's not all games. If your game is centered around multiplayer, I don't feel that it has to have a single player component, because that single player component could ruin the game depending on how you want your game to be played. So there's a lot of great games that are out that just it's multiplayer and it works well. And then there's the games that added the single player, it didn't really need it, or the single player games that added multiplayer
and it didn't work.
So yeah, I'm fine. Whatever, I'm definitely just looking forward to the final product. But we're in the age of betas.
Yep.
Will Xbox like me get?
Absolutely. We're going to bring a beta to Xbox. We don't have it yet, but what we are going to be announcing over the next couple, give it a little time here. The announcement with Xbox, the partnership is very new, but our plan is to move from, as we are now in our alpha, which is just on the PC, move into a beta, a closed beta on Windows 10 and Xbox One, then move to open beta and then to full launch, where both of those things will be happening. So, it's fall 2015. We're aiming for launch. Here we are in March. Beta can't be too far away, right?
Right. And are you able to comment on, especially what are you aiming for this game? We're in an age of everybody wants 1080p or 4K output or frames per second. What are we looking at?
We're very much aiming at 60 frames per second, 1080p on both platforms. I don't think 4K is on our map just now.
Not on mine either.
I think at some level it's probably more important for us as a very competitive and a very fast-paced game, as you guys saw, right? It's very important for us to make sure that we keep that frames per second, at that bar on all platforms, because as soon as it starts to dip a bit, everybody's ability in the competitive match drops.
Yes.
But as you see, this is a game. It's got a very stylized art palette. It doesn't need to have you don't need to see the sweat beads coming off of a character's head here. I think we're going to be in good shape on 60 frames per second.
And if what I played is any indication of what's going to be coming available this fall, you guys are in great shape.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Good. And can't wait for we all to experience it. But I know you're busy today. We're here at PAX East, so I'm gonna let you go.
Awesome.
And hopefully I get another crack at your game.
Hey, we got time. Let's do it.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Take care.